Welcome everybody to Yoga Unwind. So tonight I'm going to add in a mix of some restorative and some yin-like postures. So it'll be very grounding, and we will be holding some of the movements for some time. So if you have a yoga bolster, you'll want to have this handy. Or perhaps a rolled up blanket. So I have a bit of a denser blanket here that you can roll into like a cylinder. If you have a thicker blanket, it might be a bit squishy, but that's okay. We'll maybe fold it and roll it a bit so you can lie down with this across your shoulder blades. We're going to lie down on that. So a couple of options to start. And if you have any other props, yoga strap, yoga blocks, you want to have everything close by because we'll probably use mostly everything tonight. Okay. I'm going to start with my bolster lengthwise. You're welcome to recline back with this elevated slightly. You could place a block or 2 blocks or whatever you like underneath to have a little bit of the lift. And if you don't have a yoga bolster, don't worry, you can lie down along the length of a folded blanket, or you can even turn the blanket lengthwise and lie your shoulder blades across here. Just your upper back is free. Okay. So we're going to start lying down. And once you're lying down, either with the support of a blanket this way, so moving from left to right as opposed to along your spine, or with the bolster underneath your spine, you could extend your legs out if that's comfortable. Or you could keep your feet on the ground with your knees bent. And if you're doing that, you might want to take your feet wide, draw your toes towards one another so that your knees draw in towards one another. And then draw your shoulder blades underneath you here. Taking a big breath in, full exhale. And you could clear out your breath a couple times here. Full breath in, full breath out. And if it's comfortable, close your eyes or soften your gaze slightly. And then finding a rhythm for your breath where maybe both the inhale and the exhale are the same length, or your exhale is slightly longer than your inhale. If you've had a particularly busy day and your mind is still very active, focusing on your breath, and with each exhale, feel as if those thoughts are releasing out of your mind and your physical body is settling a little bit towards the floor here. Letting go with each breath out. We'll take about 5 more full breaths here. Anytime you need a clearing breath, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And as you're ready, creating a bit of movement here, you could extend your arms overhead. Oh, excuse me. Give yourself a full body stretch here. Place your feet on the floor. If you have the bolster or blanket underneath you, just taking some time to roll to one side and lift yourself up. And we'll just move our bolster off to the side for a moment. And taking a few breaths here to arch and round our spine, moving through cat and cow. And feel free to add any other movement that you like here, some side movements, some circles, some figure eights, anything to create a bit of space for yourself here. When you're ready, just sit into child's pose. Option to support yourself with the bolster. If you have a bolster, line the length of the bolster, or even have the bolster across your mat. Of course, you could always support with your head, you're on your hands, or your forehead on the floor. Breathing into the back of your body, and then exhale to soften your heart towards the floor. You're welcome to stay here. Or move both your arms over towards the right side. And feeling this, maybe a stretch, or feeling a lengthening, is maybe a better word, a lengthening down your left side. Taking a couple more breaths here. And then moving to the other side as you're ready. And as you come to the other side, again, emptying out your mind as you focus on your breath. And allow yourself to let go a little bit more with each exhale. As you're ready, coming back to the center. And let's rise up to tabletop here again. As you rise up to tabletop, we'll walk our knees back a little bit and we'll walk our hands forward. Now you're welcome to place your forearms and perhaps your forehead on your bolster here. If If you don't have a bolster but you have blocks, you could also place your hands on the blocks, just bringing your arms wide so you don't feel like your shoulders are slouching up towards you. You can bring your hands a little bit wider apart so that you feel like your heart is open, shoulder blades softening onto your back here. You could also, if you have no props, you can still do this with your hands on the ground, lifting your armpits, your elbows a little bit. Some full breaths into your heart space. You exhale, finding that softening, that letting go. And as you're ready, coming back up to the center, where you could round your spine for a couple breaths or move through cat and cow a couple times here. Okay. So we move into our hips a little bit, and starting with our right foot forward in a lunge, you could support your back knee. So I have a soft cushion block. You could have a folded blanket for your back knee. Front foot's a bit wider so that your hands come to the inside. Now, if you can see, my foot's turned out a little bit here so that my knee can open to the side. And you could use blocks or a bolster to settle onto maybe your forearms here, or stay up on your hands and hang out here, just walking your hands forward a bit. And sometimes I like to move a little bit, sway a bit side to side. Sometimes I need to like move out and then move back in. So finding whatever you need, some movement or stillness here. And we will be here for a little bit of time. So allowing your breath to be full and complete, and using those clearing breaths to release out anything that feels heavy or needs to let go. And as we're in this stillness of this posture longer, you could always adjust. So you could lower down more, or you could even come up a bit higher. I'm just going to take a little bit of a revolve and opening up towards my front leg for a few breaths. Join me here if you like, or stay in the center. Five more breaths. As you're ready, let's straighten out our front leg for a moment. You can walk it into the center or stay where you are, flexing your toes back towards you, squaring your hips forward, and staying lifted or folding over your front leg. let's come back to the center. You may want to come into child's pose for a few breaths. If you are practicing downward dog, option to come into downward dog for a bit as well. And as you're ready, stepping your left foot forward. Left foot's a bit wider to the side, toes turned out slightly. And then bending into your front knee. Front knee's over your ankle, so see if we can put that on the camera. Yeah, front knee's over your ankle. And this side could feel very different. So see how my hip starts to buckle forward? You want to try to avoid that. Bring your hip back so that it's square to your other hip. So you're not just collapsing this hip forward. You're actually drawing back and then settling in as a unit as opposed to collapsing in, okay? You see that a lot in class. And it's more of a drawing back and then letting the whole pelvis settle forward, which takes a little bit more work than just dropping in. Some clearing breaths if you like. Come to your forearms or your hands or stay up, lifted on blocks. Wherever it is that you are, connecting to your breath here. I'm going to take a little bit of a revolved version here as well on this side. So turning towards my left leg, opening up for a few breaths to the left. And then coming back to the center and settling in here again. Oh, hi. Hi. What's going on? Hey. You've come to distract me. Hmm? Hmm? I'm not sure what to make of all this posing. Hmm. 5 more breaths here. My cat was licking my yoga mat. So weird, Rosie. And then when you're ready, straightening out your front leg. You could walk your front foot back in the center, keep it where it is, and let's flex our foot, and you could stay lifted or fold in here. Maybe a couple clearing breaths. And bringing that leg back. Option to come into child's pose or downward facing dog. Taking some time to come back to the center. Okay. So coming up to our seat, and this next hold. So we're going to hold this one for a little bit of time. So if you have a bolster, you could use your bolster perhaps. I'm going to sit up on a soft foam block here to give my hips a little bit of height. And if you have a bolster, And you want to use that for a bit more support. There's often a few options or ways that people do that. It's comfortable, right? If you don't have a bolster, no problem. Folding in, letting your chin come towards your chest, and pausing here. So this is going to be a little bit more of a yin pose, which means it's a longer hold. So we're going to be here for maybe a few minutes. And so if you need to come out sooner for any reason, guiding yourself out at any time. But if you're going to stay here, allow your breath to soften you in a bit more, to let go. I find in these longer holds, especially a forward fold, there's always opportunity to just go like, big exhale and release in a bit more. Sometimes the release comes through my hips, but sometimes it comes through my shoulders, back of my body. Okay. It's coming about 5 more breaths here. If you're still folded in, staying folded in. If you're already come out, you can find a release. You can always come back to child's pose or tabletop. So when we come out of this this long hold, I often lean back, give myself a bit of support here, and a nice slow movement to come on out. So extending your legs, or bringing your feet to the ground and releasing your knees side to side a few times. Just finding that release here. Whew. That was a nice fold. Okay. So keeping with some forward folds and some hip openers, we'll come into another forward fold here, and this will be pigeon pose. And I realize in a room, often it could be about 50% people not taking pigeon pose, sometimes more, sometimes less. So if you know your body in this pose doesn't feel good for your knee or any other part of your body, figure 4 is a great alternative. Now we will come into a little bit of a longer hold here. So I'm going to give a couple options. Actually, I'm going to turn to face you for a moment. So if you're not coming into pigeon, you could sit for figure 4, or you could lie back for figure 4 here. If you're coming into pigeon pose, option, fold forward in the center. I don't know if you can still see me here. Or you can move your arms over to the opposite side. And as you do that, anchor this hip back and down. So you're not lifting that hip up as you move to the side. Now, I'm going to hold this again for some time. You could always support yourself with a bolster. And same thing here. So try not to drop one hip forward or the other. Trying to keep our hips even and square. There's almost a drawing up and in towards the core of your pelvis. And then there's a folding in and a softening without a collapse. Without a collapse. Some deep breaths in, deep breaths out to clear out. And remember, you can always take that option of taking your arms over to the other side, keeping your other hip anchored back and down. So maybe about 5 more breaths here. If you're folded in, you can always lift up too if you're in pigeon and hang out here. Now, whether you're in pigeon or figure four, anything to release from that side that you would like. And as you're ready, coming to the other side. Oof. Settling in, this side might feel different. You could always take that variation where you're moving towards side. Again, avoiding a collapse. So either this collapse or this collapse. Keeping your hips even and square. If you're still in the pose, you can always lift up for a few breaths. We can spend about 5 more breaths here. And taking your time is ready. Oof, coming onto that side. And I'm going to choose downward dog for this, but you could move in tabletop, extending the leg, making some hip circles here, um, shaking it out a bit, or child's pose, or anything else that intuitively your body needs right now. So we've done a few forward folds. Let's come into another heart opener. I'm going to use my rolled up blanket. You could also use a bolster across the mat. As I lay down, I don't want to have the blanket on my lower back, but I also want to have my upper back open and free. So you don't want to have the blanket here and feel like your arms are kind of like, what do I do with my arms? So almost like the tips of your shoulder blades, women usually around the bra strap line is a general, very general placement. If you have a bolster, of course, you could use the bolster here as well. It'll just create a little bit more of a back bend for you. If it's comfortable and your arms lay flat, they can go either overhead or out in line with your shoulders. Keeping your feet on the floor will reduce the back bend in your lower back. So if you want to keep your feet on the ground, you can. You could extend your legs forward. That will increase your lower back bend. And even more of a back bend here in the lower back would be bound angle, feet together, knees wide, which we came to seated. We spend a lot of time sitting at desks, computers, driving. There's a lot of forward motion as we move forward in life, of course, but particularly sitting, slouching. So this is a really good this is really good in opposition to that. I was trying to think of a better word, but would be great at the end of the day, after a day of work, driving, all those kinds of things. New moms holding babies, you know. And then breathing in into your heart space and letting it go. When we hold these longer held postures, if you find that your mind is spinning into thoughts, it's okay. It's a good practice to recognize when you're kind of going through the rabbit hole of thoughts, twisting you around, and then bringing yourself back into the present moment, taking a few breaths, noticing the sensations in your body, and then your mind will drift again, and then pulling yourself back. Just a nice practice of mindfulness and being present, being really aware of being right here, right now. We'll spend a couple more breaths here. And taking your time to roll to one side and move your blanket off to the side. Now, option for this next movement will be with either a block or a bolster. If you have neither, you can maybe perhaps fold this blanket again, or use no prop. So we'll start with the block or the bolster underneath of our sacrum, right near the base of your spine, that triangular flat bone. So not up in the small of your lower back, but right above your tailbone. The harder block, of course, is not as cozy, but it's firmer. And so there's a little bit more of a lift through your hips here. And we're going to extend our legs and my feet up towards the ceiling. And then draw into your elbows and draw your shoulder blades underneath you so that you're feeling open still across your heart space. Now I'm going to start with some circles or pointing and flexing of my toes. You're welcome to do that, or just keep your feet as they are. And then we want to eventually just let our feet be. So you're not trying to force your feet to look a certain way or to be a certain way. They're just going to be, mine are looking different because my one ankle is tighter than the other. And I'm going to bend my knees just a little bit here, just to release the back of my legs. You may want to even bend your knees a lot, especially if you're feeling a lot here. I'm comfortable with my arms overhead, so I'm also going to go there. Some people actually like to reach their arms up, take their shoulders down, let their hands relax. And this is quite restorative at the end of the day, especially if you have a job where you're standing or sitting all day. And what happens if you ever get those marks in your socks on your ankles or swelling in your feet? This will help recirculate just fluid that gets stuck. It especially gets stuck in our lower legs and our ankles. You can keep your arms up or rest them. I prefer to have mine on the floor, but everybody's different. You can also do this up against a wall. So legs up the wall pose. You just want to have your sit bones up against the wall. You don't necessarily need the prop then, because your legs will be right up against the wall. And you could just have your lower back up against the floor. I know when I had little kids, I used to lay in the hallway like this, in between the rooms, trying to get them to go to sleep. So every time they called me, I was right there. But it also helped me to unwind and release from my day of being at work all day and then coming home to 2 small children. So we're going to stay here maybe for another minute or so. If this is new to you, I would suggest maybe starting with max 5 minutes and then adding time on. If you're up with your legs up against the wall, eventually working up to 15 or 20 minutes with your legs up the wall. And then as you're ready, bend your knees, bring your feet down. Let's release the bolster or block. And I'm going to bring both knees in my chest. You can bring one knee at a time. You can rock or make some circular movements here. And because you had your legs up, you may want to ground your legs for a moment, both legs extended, maybe reaching your arms up overhead for a big body stretch. Shake out your legs a few times. So we're going to support our pelvis with the block again, or the bolster, for a supported bridge. For this, you could have the block on the lowest setting to begin. This time, same thing, shoulder blades underneath you. This time, your feet stay on the floor. Now, some of you may feel okay to lift that block up a little bit higher onto the second setting, or you may prefer having the bolster there. It's a bit more cushy. And then allow the weight of your body to settle towards the block, breathing into your heart space, breathing into your lower belly. I'm going to walk my feet a little wider apart for this today, that you could keep your feet as they are if you'd like. Allow your body to unwind, your mind to continue to unwind from your day. Let's take about 5 more breaths here. And just any time in the next couple breaths when you're ready to release your block or bolster, please release and then release the chest. Or feet to the ground and release your knees side to side a few times. A bit of both. Ooh, talk about unwinding. Whew. Okay. So before we come into it, we'll come into a twist now. I was going to turn this over. Actually, we're going to turn you over. So like you're flipping a pancake, allow yourself to be flipped over to the front of your body. And so we're going to take one more back bend. So we'll stretch out the front of our body here. Elbows, forearms on the floor perhaps. If that feels too much for your lower back, lower down here or even here, okay? If you have a bolster, it's probably one of my favorites, supported postures with the bolster. So I'm going to tuck it under my rib cage, my breastbone, and then as my forearms come down in front of me, I'm not loading my shoulders with the weight. The weight is moving onto the bolster here, and I can let my chin come down too. If it feels okay for your lower back, some of you may bend your knees here. I start to feel my pelvis lift away from the floor. So almost see it start to lift. Yeah, so I'm going to lower my feet and pause here, connecting to my breath. Giving the front of my body an opportunity to soften as I breathe out. Let's take about 5 more breaths here. For those of you that feel so inclined to lift up higher without it pinching your lower back, you could straighten your arms and roll your shoulders back and down here. Now, if you're lifted up really high, you want to start to lower down. Any props that are underneath you, begin to release that, and then let's flip back onto our back. Turning back, so we're laying flat on our back, knees towards your chest, hug in here, and rock a little bit, perhaps side to side. So I'm going to take a twist, lying down, any twist you like. So you could lift both knees, bring both knees stacked over to the side. You could take a one knee twist or wrap your legs up like eagle legs, whatever works for you here. And as you settle your legs, close your eyes Connecting deeply to your breath. Some full inhales, full exhales. Using what a little lighting can do. A few more breaths on this side. And taking your time to come back to the center. And we'll come to the other side. You might want to make a bit of movement with your knees to chest, or windshield wiper your knees a few times side to side. And then making your way. Ooh, did you hear that? That was my back. We did that little adjustment. And into the other side as you're ready. Closing your eyes. And allow yourself to settle in a bit more. And just a few more breaths on this side. And when you're ready to come back to the center, I'm going to give myself a full body stretch, but feel free to bring your knees towards your chest, windshield wiper your knees. Now, I'm going to end practice the way that I began, which was lying down on my bolster. You can do the same, or lie flat on your back. And start in reclined bound angle, so feet together, knees wide, for about a minute, and then move right into Shavasana from here. So if you want to put on a sweater or a blanket, or just get yourself really comfortable, if you're going to skip being on the bolster, you can be flat on your back. A couple clearing breaths. Give yourself this opportunity to just be, to surrender, to find some peace, hopefully some quiet where you are. You're still in bound angle with your feet together, knees wide. As you're ready, releasing your legs and giving yourself a couple clearing breaths to move yourself fully into Shavasana. Any other little adjustments you need to make? Continue to deepen your breath. Slowly begin to move your body. Your body stretch. Feel the bolster still. Bring your feet to the ground, to the ground for a moment so you can feel that connection with your sacrum and your feet. Take your time. You can roll to your side for a moment. Take a few breaths here before making your way up to your seat. So make your way to your seat. A moment. Bringing your hands over your heart or palms together at your heart space. A slight bow of your mind to your heart. Bow of gratitude. Thank yourself for being here. There's so many benefits to this practice. There's such a rippling out from within you to just outside you, and then everyone around you. There's just this amazing vibration that moves outwards from this practice. I'm so very grateful to be guiding you tonight, and I wish you well, a great night and a great day. Thank you again. Namaste. Thanks, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful evening, and hope to see you soon.